Welcome everyone. Today I'm going to be reviewing this JJC Advanced Film Scanner. This has been on the market now for only a couple months, and I do not see any actual reviews from someone who's actually purchased the thing and used it. So I'm going to detail some of my issues with this, because it's not without issues, but I also do think this is a pretty good option if you want to scan film at home. So stay tuned and let's get into it. Setting up all of this is actually quite simple. On the bottom there is a tool here, and you're going to use that tool in order to screw this on here, like so. Well, this dial here on the right side of it all allows you to properly extend this in order to adapt to several different macro lenses and maybe potentially non-macro lenses, but a 1-to-1 macro lens I believe is suggested only for this. Now you just want to tighten it up where you like it, and after doing so, everything can potentially be locked in a way that you won't have to readjust this often. Just going into my tripod setup that I'm using here, it's really not much to it. This doesn't take up that much space either. It can be folded up in a corner. It's not like your traditional stands that people use for scanning, which really took up a lot of space. So I have this power bank here that will be powering the unit. Has an adjustable dial here. Of course, the power bank doesn't want to start right now for some reason. It worked yesterday, so why it wouldn't be working now is beyond me. Oh, there we go. Okay, took a bit for that to start up. Okay, so now I have it on the highest setting there. This is the holder that we're going to be scanning with, and I'm not entirely sure exactly how I feel about this holder. It's good in some ways and not so great in other ways. For example, when you open up this magnetic clasp, as you can see, there's 2 magnets on both sides there. They have plexiglass on the other side instead of like a proper glass material, so it is an absolute dust magnet. So I'm not sure exactly how much of an issue will arise from using something like this. But anyways, let's put some film in here. Now that we have the film in here, we want to make sure it's on both sides of this track here. And this fits 6 rolls. Going to close this down. Now, an issue I had before after closing this down was that because I hadn't flattened the film out, it actually was a little bit bowed and it didn't produce the best scans, but I've actually been flattening it now for about a week now, so the film is completely flat as of the current moment. So now, putting the film here in this slide, you would just place it like this. As I mentioned before, I'm having a bit of an issue with this light. However, it's turning on right now. And I think this actually provides some decent scans. Of course, there's no memory card in there. Okay, now that everything is set up on here, I just want to show you exactly how I set this up. First off, on the back here, I adjusted this dial in order to be in line with my macro lens. Flip it back over. What I've just done is I've aligned this back portion here in order to properly have this be centered. And what I like to do here is I actually like to have a little bit of the outside frame in the shot. So now one thing I actually like to do is have a little bit of the frame in personally, I think it looks good, and also it gives you a little bit more flexibility if you have to do some sort of distortion correction inside here. So now everything looks good. I have my aperture set to f8, which I don't currently. I should change that. Okay, so now that's been changed. I'm going to have it where it's about at 0, so 0 overall exposure. You don't want anything peaking on either side or being underexposed. Now we're gonna take the photo, and there you go. This plexiglass on the back, I feel, doesn't necessarily flatten it out too well, so you are going to have a bit of bowing if you want to scan the film right away. But if you can leave it in a sleeve or something like this for a few days and flatten it under a book, then it does fix that issue, which is great. Going into the digitizing process, open this image now in Adobe Photoshop. This is just a few step process, just going here. If you don't have this side option open here, you can go into the workspace section, select photography, and then that should be available and you should be able to see it then, or you can just press adjustments here in the window area. Now click here and select curves, and this will give you access to color negative for color print, and then for negative print we'll go here. Just going to exit out, and this will save this image and bring it back over into Lightroom, where I'll do my adjustments. Now in Lightroom, because the image is always so overexposed, I'm just going to work a little bit in this tone curve here, just till I'm happy with the results. Now, in order to match these two images, I can just copy the settings and move them over. But yeah, so now looking at this image, I want to actually reset the crop on both of them to get a better idea of how things are looking. With this one here, I'm just going to bring it in like that. So now the one that I scanned almost immediately after shooting it, you can see there is a bit of warping. If you look at this here, there definitely is some warping. Nothing is necessarily aligned, and you can tell there is a bit of warping if you look into if you look at the lines closely. Now, after sitting for a week, let's just reinspect that, and yeah, it seems everything is actually much better in terms of how well it did, although there's still a bit of an issue on this right side here. I'm not entirely too sure what happened on this film, but for the most part, most of the film is without this on the side. I don't know if this is a light leak or what, but and this was also the film that was the most bowed, so this is why I'm working with this film despite having this issue on the side here. What I had done the previous time is I just went into guided and I adjusted the sides here in order to try and fix the perspective, and let's just see how that looks, and if you can just use guided in order to fix this compared to waiting a week. Okay, now go back into here and let's just look at this angle. And I mean, it's clearly a little bowed still, but I don't think it's honestly that bad compared to before. Now let's turn off the guided. Just have a little bit of a comparison of what it looked like before. Yeah, it's definitely, especially on the bottom, you can see. All in all, it's a pretty good setup. I would just like to know if any of you would know whether or not having this rear plexiglass side be so easy to mark up and collect dust, if that will run into any issues when scanning this film, because I imagine it would still show up on the opposite side as well. So yeah, please let me know. Please let me know, because I don't believe you can buy spares of this, so you're kind of screwed if that does present some sort of issue.